Good afternoon. My name is Donna Thiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, from 1 to 3 p.m. Central, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You can find us on the radio at icradio.media, Fox News affiliates. You can also find us on television, Channel 182 on Charter Communications Abundant Television, syndicated, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on the newscasters.com and all the social media sites and all that stuff. Couldn't get away from us if you tried. Absolutely. We are actually live at Twin City Used Car Sales, located right here in Gadsden, Alabama. Bobby Ledbetter's been a friend of mine for a long time.
Good guy.
Phillip Gilliland's with me right now, and he's with the American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches, church we go to. I love that church.
It was
Well,
great
you had a
yesterday.
crowd.
Oh yeah, I don't even know. I lost count how many we baptized yesterday, but all those little fellows, their parents and their grandparents and some of their aunts and uncles came, and man, I love it when people come out and support the little ones, and so we came out of that thing. I say we call it war horse count, but it's like a BBS on steroids, and those people that work so hard. I was just there. I just happened to be there, and I loved it. Had such a good time, and we had I think 21 salvations out of it, and there was three recommitments. It was just in. It's one of those things that every preacher loves to see happen when the Spirit just gets poured out on their church, and so and it'll start a revival, whether you're ready for it or not. Sometimes, and I think that's kind of where we were yesterday. Our floors were sopping. I was wet all over from baptizing kids, and what a great experience. And we still have, I think, about 6 or 7 more to go, but it's a blessing. Ooh, was that ever good? That's just what you want to be part of.
Kids lead us.
Oh, they do?
Brad,
They
my
do.
son, has led me for a lot of times.
Yeah.
When I would be going the wrong way, something he would say, God forgive him, I guess. So something he would say would make me stop, because you get so busy with life,
Yeah.
working, cooking.
All of us do. All of us do.
And you forget sometimes. And it takes those little ones to kind of lead us right back.
And nothing can stop you in your tracks, like a child saying something to you. I mean, I remember certain things going back, and I remembered when my granddaughters were little, and there was a day, and I was looking after all the grandkids, and this was before John and Jacob, my two youngest sons, were born, but I had the grandkids, and the girls were like 4 and 5, and Peyton, who is next to the oldest, Gracie's the oldest. She's the one we just got married off, and but Peyton, she was doing something, and she was drinking something, and I told her, "Be careful, don't spill that." Well, lo and behold, she spills it, and
And you tell them not to, is when they do.
and I fussed at her a little bit. I said, "Peyton, I just told you to be careful." And when I got done fussing at her, Gracie, the oldest one, she told me something. She said, "Papa, she's just a little girl. She's just a year." And I said then, I never say nothing else to them. No matter what, I'm just not going to say. Yeah, she did. She nailed it. She said, "Papa, she's just a little girl." And I thought, good grief, thanks. It really put me in my place. But so and too many times we forgot to let the little things be little things and things that don't matter. And this morning we rush around and do things because I'm trying to get ready to leave and be gone a few days out in Texas. And so I got a fuel leak on my track. Everything is around my place is broke. So I took the tractor, took the four-wheeler down to a friend of mine that works on those things. And so Jacob, my youngest one, who's 14, he's helping me and all of that. So I have to tell myself, don't be in such a hurry. He doesn't know how to do everything, and he's willing to help. He's willing to do anything to help me. And but I have to say, don't be in such a hurry. One of these days you'll be wishing he was back here helping you do these things. So, but you're right. But it is, it's kind of the thing that got us in where we started talking about our church, and churches go through these revivals, and it's happened in multiple capital churches. And I think that's the one thing about capital churches. But here, we do a big AFCC camp, and thank the Lord for it. Matt Cano's one of my super good, close young pastor friends. He leads that effort, and does a great job with it. But we have some kids that don't get to go, and most of those that we led to the Lord were kids that didn't get to go to the AFCC camp. We say, well, why didn't they go? Well, their parents, usually those kids, don't bring them to church very often, or either they're part of our Wednesday night group that their parents don't come at all. They bring them and drop them off, and we're glad they do. So their parents don't know us well enough to say, well, you can go off and keep my kid for 4 days and 3 nights. They don't know us that well, and I'm thankful they're cautious about it.
Oh, yeah.
So, but they would let them come to this. So for kids that didn't get to go to the AFCC camp but got to come to the Warhorse camp, which is at our church, uh, I don't know, there was 60 kids there. And then
Well, that
there,
opens up a lot of doors because if the kids come, they're going to be excited. They're
oh
going to
yeah,
tell the
oh
parents.
yeah. And I had several parents to tell me yesterday this is going to be our church, and it was because their kid, and you have to be aware of that, what it says about, and a child shall lead them, because sometimes it works that way, and there's nothing better than a kid leading their parents to church. So we had several people yesterday that came up to me afterward and said, oh, by the way, this is going to be our new church, because we love coming here. And of course, this morning I was in a real good discussion over the phone with one of my elders from another church in another state, and we were talking about this because some of our churches have issues with it, and what it is we have a lot of people that come to Cowboy Church and they want to make it just like the traditional church they left, and they left it because they wasn't happy there. So when they come to Cowboy Church, they, not all of them, but a few of them think, well, we need to be doing this. Well, why do we do that? Why did you do it there if it's not?
It's a
Because
tradition.
it's a tradition, and I've said lot of good things about traditional church. It's a good thing, but because I wouldn't be where I'm at or doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for traditional church. But at the same time, we need to be thinking outside the box, and we need to let go of all those legalistic things that have encumbered us and kept us
They really don't
from
mean anything.
it don't mean a thing, and it hinders the work of the Spirit in the church. And I think what Cowboy Church does, and I get a chance to go all over the country talking about this, and I love talking about it because I think Cowboy Church, what it does is it kind of takes away that barrier of, well, we've always done it that way, or takes away that barrier that says, well, it's just a legalistic matter, and we should do it that way because that's what somebody before us told us to do, and we've been doing it that way for generations and generations. And well, maybe that's why you haven't grown. Maybe that's why you're not seeing the move of the Holy Spirit. Maybe you ought to try doing something to get rid of all those barriers that keep people from coming to Christ.
Well, sometimes they just do something because their grandpa did it,
Yes,
their grandmother,
yes.
whatever did it. So there was a friend of mine who's always been a Baptist, and she lives in Oxford. And so she said, where do you go to church? And I said, I go to the Cowboy Church. And she said, you mean you're not a Baptist? I said, well, I'm just a Jesus lover.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I'm going to be a Baptist. And I said, why are you a Baptist? And she said, because John was a Baptist. John was John the Baptist, and I said, no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I said, that didn't mean he was a Baptist denomination. They didn't
No,
have that
no,
back then.
no.
But that meant he baptized people. That's why
Yeah.
he was called John the Baptist. And she said, for real? And I said, see, there's a
Yeah.
lot of people are so deceived. There's
Well, they don't even stop to think sometimes what it really means, because I don't think, you know, and I did this really nice wedding on Friday night.
I thought pictures. I've
And
never
it
seen
was,
you in a suit and tie before.
well, sometimes I have to do.
I
You
didn't
just have to
recognize
think.
you.
I know I didn't feel very comfortable, but
It was a nice presentation. You should have seen
it
it.
was a beautiful wedding, and that this sweet lady that lives down the street from me, and she had two boys that used to hang around the barn a good bit, and one of them was with me at church yesterday. Jaden, who Jaden I think is 19, and
You're sitting on the front bench.
he sat right beside me, and he told me afterwards, because Jaden comes out of a Church of God, which is a pretty Pentecostal church, and I thought, you know, my thinking, I said, oh, man, I hope he likes it, but you know, we don't. Generally do some of the things that they do there, but after church yesterday, he told me, he said, "Man, I love this." He said, "I love being here." He said, "I hope you don't mind if I come back." I said, "No, I wish you'd come back all the time." But you know, I think that we get hung up on and that wedding. There was all of these people at the wedding. They were all Church of God, and they were sweetest people in the world, and they were so good to me. And I'll tell you, when it kind of became a spiritual thing to be part of their wedding, and but nobody was thinking about denominations, and I think that's the way it'll be in heaven. There won't be any denominations in heaven. You can forget that. It won't be there. And so my thing is, yeah, we get hung up on denominations a little bit, and I'm pretty much died in the World Baptist, but I don't go around bragging about it. You know, I don't think that's anything to brag about. I think if there's any bragging to do, you brag on Jesus, and that's what He called us to do: is go tell people what He did, what He's still doing, and what you saw yesterday was just an example of what Jesus does and still does. You know, He still calls people to Himself, and all of those people that came to Christ, and people that were, I mean, it's the first time I remember ever having two baptistries full of water, two horse troughs full of water, and we were using both of them because we had so many. And that's a good problem. That is a good problem. So that was pretty neat within itself, and it's just today I'm still reeling from yesterday, and
You know what I thought was really amazing? You know, because I've been to church. I have a son. Of course, he's a 45-year-old baby now. I got the best daughter in love in the world, so she puts up with him. And so when he was a baby, though, he was the first grandchild in the family, in which meant he was spoiled right. So he was used to whatever he wanted to get, no matter where he was. He'd just cry a little bit and get his way. Well, and he learned this from kids learn at an early
oh
age
yeah,
like that. So my brother or sister or somebody was picking on him, and she just started just yelling and screaming. I couldn't get him to stop. And it was at the quietest moment in church. Okay, there was nothing going on. I couldn't get him to stop or anything. So people were just looking at me like,
yeah,
"You terrible mother," you know. They're just kind of, and I thought, I'll just have to wait till he's grown before I go back to church. That's what I thought I'm going to have to start doing. And so what happened is the baby cried a little bit. Nobody stared at the mother.
yeah.
And you even said something. You
Don't
said
worry
you
about
love to hear that.
Yes, I do. I love to hear the sound of children in church, and it doesn't matter if they're fretting or whatever. Usually, if I notice first timers bringing a small child in, I tell them, "Hey, look, if that child gets fretful, don't think it's going to bother us. We love that sound in our church. We like that sound because we know that means the church has a future." So what we saw yesterday is some of those little fellas that came to the Lord. I know were 7 and 8 years old, a couple of them. And those little guys have been in our church for a long time. They know me by my name. They come when they come to church. They come and speak to me. So I don't think you want to build any fences as a. And man, I know I'm an old preacher. I'm an older guy. But if you don't,
We're about the same age. Watch it.
well, if you don't take down those barriers when they're little, and because I know they come, I've got some of them that come jump right up in my lap, just like, and there's a group of them, there's a certain group of these little girls that call me Uncle Brother Phillip, and I love it. It tickles and thrills my soul. They're just little fellas, but that's what they determined me to
I
be.
remember those things.
I'll never forget that.
There was a preacher, Johnny Denson, went to a church that we used to go to when I was a little girl. And I used to bite my fingernails all the time. I mean, I would bite them to the nubs, they would even bleed. So Mr. Denson, Preacher Denson, walked up to me one day and he said, "See this?" He had a couple of fingers gone. And I didn't know the real truth until I was about 25 years old. I believed this. He said, "See that?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You know how that happened?" And I said, "No, sir." We were taught to say yes or no, sir, back in the day. And he said, "I was biting my fingernails." Bit my finger off. Do you know I stopped biting my nails? I mean, all it took is him saying that. So I mentioned to my granddad one time, and I said, "Yeah, Mr. Denson, a long time ago, Preacher Denson told me." I said, "You remember when I used to bite my nails?" He said, "Yeah, they would just bleed." And he said, "How do you stop?" And he said, "You just quit like that." And I told him about Mr. Denson. He said, "Well, I got to tell you the truth on that." I said, "What?" He said, "He used to work at a cotton mill years ago in Foster." But it stopped me. But I admire him. I mean, and just he was just, and he really didn't do anything outstanding. I mean, he was just there, and he was just so sweet man. I mean, just a sweet man.
Well, I think, and I preached, I was thinking about it on the way down here, the last 3 weeks. I think I've preached in 5 or 6 different churches in 3 weeks, not counting the trading post. And not only that, there's at least 3 more that I've been to. So, but those sermons I was preaching were so similar because I was preaching sermons about love. And I can tell you, of all the things that churches can do, a lot of things wrong. They can make a lot of mistakes. If they get the love part right, it will still be successful. But if you don't get that right, you can do everything else right, and it still won't lead people
Told
to
you about my
God.
situation. I didn't want to go back to church
Yeah,
because the baby's going to be a baby.
that's right.
And that's just the way it is. But that's something also that's breathtaking because we're watching the news all the time. Just
Oh,
bad,
yeah.
nasty
Oh,
news
I'm
all the
telling you.
time. Even if you say, because I've committed myself to only watching 15 minutes of it a day. Only, because you can hear enough in 15 minutes.
Oh,
Just
that's
keep
enough,
reporting
yeah.
it over and over again. It's just the same old thing. But when you can go to the Catholic Church and you can see kids all over the place, it gives you
Oh, yeah.
inspiration.
I'm telling you, I was never so inspired. I don't even know how many kids, because there was a bunch of kids that we didn't baptize that were still there yesterday. Kids, most of which I've already baptized, and you look around and you see and you feel this overwhelming sense of the Holy Spirit, and you feel just the love. And I think people come in that maybe were visitors, and they come in and they immediately sense, well, this is the safe place because we feel this agape love that,
You just said it, safe place.
yeah.
And everybody right now is looking for a safe place.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's what most of our cowboy churches exemplified Saturday. I love this. And I'm telling you, I was pretty tired. I have run my legs off, and I thank the Lord for His strength because He's the only one that lets me do this. But, we went down the road from here about 20 minutes from here, and we helped a church Saturday, and Lookout Mountain came and helped, and both our Chuck Wagons team helped Circuit Riders Cowboy Church. We just had a blast down there, and it was that same thing. It was that overwhelming sense of that spirit of love, and that's what makes the American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches. That's why I can't wait to get to Texas, because this fellowship exuberates the sense of spiritual love. So when I go out there, I'll see people that I haven't ever seen before. I'll see some people that I don't see but once every 2 or 3 years. But that same spirit of love binds us together in the Lord. It binds us together in servanthood, and it will inspire you. It will fuel the flames of your spiritual heart to keep you going. And I love that. I love doing that. That's one of my favorite things about going to the clinic, and I'll help with a couple of parts of the clinic, but that's not my favorite part. I mean, anybody can probably do a better job than me, but they've asked me to come do it. What I go for is the fellowship, and being around these people that I know a little bit, some that I'll get to know, and it's that binding spirit of love that comes from Almighty God. And I just think it's good. It's a good thing, and we sensed it yesterday in our church. It was really an outpouring.
This is every single cowboy church I've been to. But again, you mentioned the barriers. Removing
Yeah,
the barriers,
yeah.
I think, is a big, big deal now. And so, I mean, we've been to, the Lookout Mountain Cowboy Church, with Judy and Don.
Oh yeah,
They're phenomenal.
they're some of the best, and of course, they were both down there. They were down there Saturday with us, and we enjoyed the fellowship. But their church is really a high standard. That's the one that set the bar, because I was there probably, I guess, 3 weeks ago and preached on a Wednesday night at their third anniversary. They're 3 years old. They're over 200 people. They're building on to the new building for the second time. Yeah, for the second time, they're building onto it, and because they need it. I mean, they need the space. People just keep coming, and it's not because they do everything perfect. It's because they have the sense of love. They love people. That you've been there. You feel that love as soon as you walk in there. I can go in there and preach just like I do at my own church. It's just a freedom. And that kind of love is the love that'll set you free. It'll set you free from worry and anxiety and all of life's ailments. When you really get yourself surrounded and bounded up in the love of God, it will change a lot of dynamics in your life. One of the ladies in our church, and she's a sweetheart of a lady, and she has a really, really tough job. That she's a public servant in what she does, but it's a hard job. And I got a text from her last night. Recently she lost her dad, and she had lost a child before, and several other hardships that have kind of caved in on her. But she knows that our church, and she said it to me over and over. I don't know what we'd have done if we hadn't found the church. And really, all churches ought to be that way. We should be that way. People can come and feel let their guard down. Because when they do, that's when you allow the Spirit to do a work in your life. And then there's Brother Dwayne, who was there yesterday. I don't know if he's 92 years old, and
He doesn't look 92.
no, he drove to Maine back this week. He did. He drove all the way home without stopping from Maine. And he told me how many thousand miles it was. I couldn't believe it.
Without stopping?
Without stopping. He
I gotta
said,
make at least three stops.
well, I mean, he stopped for those things, for fuel and the restaurant, but he didn't spend the night anywhere between. And he came he said, well, I was coming down 72. So he said, rather than go home and take a shower, he said, I just got my toothbrush out and came in here and brushed my teeth. And he said, I just sat down and rested a while. And he said, I'll go home.
He felt comfortable doing that.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. It's like home.
Yeah, he was the one that kind of taught me more about this love. He said, because you had, and I had never thought about it, not so much as he did, because he came there Brother Wayne has lost two children. He had lost a wife to cancer, lost two children to health issues, and he was such a about broken when he came there. About I think it's been about 7 years ago. Yeah, he said that. But then he's the one that always says that all he tells me over and over and over. It all goes back to love. If people come here, and he said I felt it when I came here and it saved my life. He said I was just about done. He said I had just grieved myself to the end. And he said when I came here, then I started feeling so. What more could you ask for? That he is a motivator to all of the men that in our church that know him, because he is such an inspiration. And whenever we try to do anything, he's always leading the pack, and he's leading the charge on a lot of things. So, I think he's the one that probably taught most of us, look, you got to keep talking about this love factor, because it is a real part of it. And if you don't keep preaching, he's fussed at me a time or two, kind of saying, man, you got to keep telling them. You got to keep telling them. And he's right. You got to keep telling them. We got to keep reminding ourselves about this foundation being built on love. And it's the same thing with a lot of things that people struggle with. They've never felt the love of Christ through another person. And if they hadn't, they really don't know what they've missed. So.
We're going to have to go to a commercial break.
Okay.
We went over just a little bit, but that's okay. Phil will find it. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park, and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors, and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer
yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities.
I'm excited to announce my all-new mattress topper. In the times we're in, I wanted to bring you the best affordable mattress topper ever. So I took my two best technologies and combined them to make the ultimate mattress topper. And now you can get it for as low as $69.98. Queen size only $99.98. It all starts with my famous MyPillow foam that provides you that overall full body support. Second is the individual comfort supports that give you an amazing custom sleep experience. It's like it's made specifically for you. The queen size alone has over 14,000 comfort supports. This is the perfect mattress topper to improve any bed. New bed, old bed, your guest beds. Get them for every bedroom in your house. Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get the all-new My Mattress Topper for as low as $69.98. Queen size only $99.98. Don't delay, order today.
At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
Good afternoon. We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central Time. You can find us anytime you want to. You can find us on television, channel 182, Charter Communications, and Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast, thenewscasters.com. Oh, they have some awesome talk show hosts all day long. And it's just a wonderful place. People will speak the truth. If you don't like the truth, don't go there. But anyway, it's a great place. And thank you so much for the emails. You don't know how that makes my day. Send emails to Donna at donnasedge.com. You know, I'm a geek in school. And I'm a good quiet and all that stuff. So if you want somebody to do some research for you, just a little more information about a particular topic, I'm your girl. Send it to me. Again, that's Donna at donnasedge.com. Gilliland is one of my best friends, and so he's with us right now. He's with the American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches. I wanted to mention this because a few of my friends found out I was going to your church, Cowboy Church, and they said, I'm just kind of amazed that you're going there. And I said, why? And she said, because I heard they ride horses. I said, where do you get your information from? Somebody said, I heard they ride horses inside the church. Somebody even said, I heard instead of saying amen, they shoot guns. And I said, but I will tell you this, an active shooter wouldn't want to come to the Cowboy Church.
That's true.
That's true as well. But I'm going. And so we've been to Henniger, that one up there.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, every Cowboy church we've been to has been just awesome.
Oh yes, there's some really good guys. I tell them all the time. I am the least of all these guys. They're just great pastors around our church, and our fellowship is really growing. There's several churches trying to affiliate with us, which we don't just take anybody. We learned a hard lesson a few years ago. We do our background checks on people, and we make sure that they're okay to be around, and we go to a pretty deep extent to figure all that out now.
Parents love hearing that.
Yes.
That you go to details.
Well, even the people that we send off to camp with young people, they have to go through the same kind of background. And even though we may know them, we redo it every year, because there might be something that's happened that we don't want to put any child at risk. So we go to a pretty deep extent trying to figure out, making sure that things that we do are okay, and that nobody's in any danger of anything. And there's not you won't hardly ever see a cowboy church that doesn't have a pile of kids in it. So that's why it's so important. And it saddens me, to go to or hear about a church. Well, we've lost all our kids, and one of my friends from the Baptist organization, who it's not our Marshall County friends, but it was in another county, and he was telling me, he said, up in this one valley, there used to be 7 Baptist churches. He says there's only 3 left. I said, well, what's happened? He said they just died out. He said there's not a lot up there to keep people there, and he said the young people were leaving anyway. And he said the old people just all died out. He said there's only 3 of those left. It is, and it's like the church at Arab, which is Southern Cross Cowboy Church, and Justin Staten's the pastor over there and doing a great job. But that that building was given to us by the Marshall Baptist Association, and what happened there, and this is a nice building, and these 2 elderly gentlemen, and when I say they're elderly, don't look at me so funny, but they were older guys like me, and they were precious men, and they were handing over the keys. And man, it was just the saddest moment for them, because that church that was built in 1969 had just all died out. And it was a super nice building, a nice fellowship hall. It looked like you had church there. Yesterday had a piano, had an organ, and the hymnals were brand new. You could tell they were brand new. And they were looking so sad that day. And I told them, I said, guys, do one thing for me. Just come to the first service. It'll take us a couple of weeks, and you just come to that first service. And they said, well, we will. And the first service, there was 90-something people there, the first service. And they were smiling. They had big smiles on their face. It showed them that all that they had done was not in vain, that the Lord had breathed a new life into that church, and that church has continued to grow and doing great things even now. So what a blessing it is. And I think there's, if I'm correct, I believe there's 3 churches in Tennessee that are in buildings that one time belonged to the Baptist Association in Tennessee, or churches that they took over that just failed, just died out. So it's not, and we would have had more, but we didn't have pastors and people to put in them. So our growth is at the Lord's speed and at the Lord's timing, and not ours. So we are growing. We're doing clean. We got a big one coming up in Tennessee in October, the first weekend in October. This coming weekend, we're doing one in Waxahachie, Texas, and it's just straight south of Fort Worth a little ways, and but there's a cowboy church there that runs like 2,000. And it is. At one time, it was almost 3,000 people in that church before COVID, and some of those, it's continued to gradually grow back. And
Steady growth is better.
oh, it is.
How many times have you seen something grow overnight, and then it crashes?
It does, and that can happen. And there's people that come to cowboy churches that don't stay because they come thinking, well, man, this is a great place to wear boots and hats, or they come thinking this is a great way to meet a chick or a dude, and when they figure out it's really a church. It's just another church, and they may not come back, and that's okay. If they came for the wrong reason, well, they probably don't need to be there. But we have a lot of them that come for the right reason, and some of them probably came for the wrong reason and got that reason changed because of a spiritual thing. And I love that. I know some did, and I know that's happened before. I was so encouraged by young Jaden who sat by me and him telling me he'd never been to cowboy church. He's 6'2" tall. His granddad is one of my good friends that live out there close to me. He and I are born, his granddad and I were born the same month, same year. And he and I are just, he's just really a good guy. And Jaden came after his mother, of course, I did the wedding for, and his mother uh, told him he ought to come visit, and he said he'd been that. Sure enough, he showed up, and he couldn't say enough yesterday about the church. Of course, he came on an unusual day when we baptized 13 or 14 kids. I lost count at some point, but it was a good time, and we're still reaching people. That's the thing. We try to keep this momentum going, and we have churches. I got to preach a week ago yesterday in Pulaski. They moved into a new building, and they had 260 for the first service in that new building. They've been running about 185, but in that first service in that new building, can I tell you a quick story about that? Well, that church started in a sale barn, in an old sale barn in Pulaski. And this goes back to the late 60s. No, it goes back earlier than that. It's about 64 or 5, somewhere along in there. I was just a kid, and I went with my dad and granddad to a sale in Pulaski in an old 63 Ford one-ton truck with the cattle sideboards on it. And I still have that truck. It sits in my shed, but it still runs and drives good. And but I went up there, I think it was about 7 years ago, to preach. It was on about their third or fourth service. And I went to that old sale barn where I had gone to as a little kid, and I had to sit out in the truck for a little bit before I went in there because I recognized it as soon, and I thought it was probably the same place, but as soon as I pulled up, I knew it was the same place. So I had to sit out in my truck for a little bit before I went in, and it was a blessing to get to go in and preach at a place where, as a kid, you'd gone to with your dad, your granddad. So then they moved now into a new building, and it's beautiful, and a beautiful building, and it was full of people. So you got to, and you can't help but think, well, what is God telling me? I mean, I used to come here as a kid in an old sale barn, and here we are. And I've thought a lot about it. Driving up and down the road, I think about those kind of things, and what is it God I want to learn from this? If you can tell me something I can learn from this, I sure want to get it. But it's really special. Those things there's so much that happens in our churches that are really special with a lot of people. They all have a very unique testimony. The church at Sand Mountain, where you've been to at Boaz, I mean, that used to be a saddle club for years and years and years. It was one of the biggest saddle clubs in the state of Alabama. It
Now,
was.
is that where Terry Willoughby went?
No, Terry went to the Cowboy Church of Marshall County in Aberfoyle, and that's where I started at.
He never went to church. You know that?
No, I
And when
know.
I heard he was going to church, it was like, Terry's going to church.
Oh, he loved it.
Glad to
He
hear
loved it.
And that's when I thought about it.
Yeah.
I thought, no, wait a minute. If there's something that's going to hang him, and he's going to go,
Yeah.
there must be something to it.
Yeah, he was part of the very beginning of the Cowboy Church of Marshall County, and I did his funeral. It's one of the biggest funerals I've ever done, and it was all I could do to get through it. It was a hard funeral to do because he was a dear friend of mine. We'd known each other since we were teenagers and rode together as teenagers, and he was quite an accomplished horseman, a roper.
He had trophies.
Oh yeah, he had drawers full of trophy buckles, and I forgot how many. I helped Deborah sell a lot of his saddles. He had bukus of saddles, and we sold those and to help her, and it was it's pretty unique to see some of the things that the Lord's done. But I remember going to church with Terry at the Cowboy Church of Marshall County, and we'd leave and go to a team roping that afternoon. But we'd go to church, and we'd have our horse trailer. We'd have our horses on the trailer, and we'd leave and go to it that afternoon, and it wasn't long before we were helping the Cowboy Church of Marion County get started. Well, Terry knows everybody everywhere,
In the world.
everywhere. He,
You couldn't go
and
anywhere.
so
Yeah, very well.
so
Yeah.
he started going with me over there.
And Brad is taking after him. By the way.
Yeah, so we started going over there, and Terry would go. We'd have the best time. We'd go, and I'd preach, and Leon, my music guy, would do the music, and Terry would go, and then we'd stop about 11 o'clock on the way home and eat breakfast at some place, because that's the only place we had the best time.
Little house anyway.
Yeah, that's right. We had the best time doing that, and now that church runs about 180 now. It's my friend Tom Lewis is the pastor over there. What a bless! Every church, every one of these cowboy churches, there's 23 of them here in Alabama. They all have a testimony and a story about how they got from where they are to where they are now. And it's just amazing. It just amazes me
Well,
at
it's
times.
amazing too, but and I'm bringing you back to the cell barn when you were a kid.
Yeah.
So it's amazing the young people they're going on these they're meeting they're having friends all over the
Oh, yeah,
country
yeah.
basically, and it's not one of just those little fluke things. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
people go, well, you know, they've been somewhere for a week, they'll be like that for a month. These kids,
Oh,
they
my.
stay that way. I mean, they're
Well, I
not
can tell
living.
you, I'll give you the perfect example of that. This happened a year ago, this past July. Uh, well, the first of this month. It was a year ago, the first of this month, at the AFCC camp down at Calera. My now 16-year-old meets a little girl from Lookout Mountain, and she's a sweetheart. Yeah. So, I mean, here it is. We're over a year later. Well, he's now got driver's license, and they've been dating ever since then. And every now and then she'll come over on Saturday and spend a day with us. And we just love it. We love it. So, you know, you can't say it's not pretty far reaching, because I mean I know I have a testament to that in my own house. You know, and these
Cowboy churches are there.
I couldn't. I mean, there's a lot of like 300. Well, there's a lot of them that are not affiliated with us. But in our fellowship, I could tell you there's probably 300, but there's probably another 20 or 30 that's somewhere in the process of either just getting started, trying to form a core group, or trying to affiliate with us that have never affiliated with us before. And there's a whole group of those in North Carolina and Kentucky, and those I've been to recently. And some of those pastors have gone through our pastor processing, and it's just it's still just a real growing. We haven't seen yet what it can become.
Well, there's a training pastors go to. Do they need to have a degree from
No,
a seminary or anything like
but
that?
we do offer some educational programs. We call it the MDC program, which stands for Ministry Development Program, that's offered through a college and through the AFCC, and we've had some people that have already completed it. It's been a great thing, and but no, they're not required to.
Because there's a lot of good ministers out there that
Oh,
just
yeah.
don't have the degree, so to
Oh,
speak.
honestly, the majority of ours don't have a theology degree, but man, they've got a degree in life, and most of them have a tremendous personal testimony, which is extremely valuable. And uh, these cowboy preachers are the ones that are really, really real. I mean, they can be really real
And they're
because
street smart.
that's
My
the thing.
granddad one of my granddads had a sixth grade education. The other one had a ninth grade education. Two of the smartest men I've ever met.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you what, they had the equivalent of a master's degree
Oh,
because
yeah.
they were constantly learning, they were constantly doing research. And so smart and good common sense.
Yeah, that's the word. That is the key word, the common sense. My dad, that was the thing that I grew up around more than I did education, was the common sense. And I was telling somebody just the other day, my dad decided he wanted a boat, a nice boat. Well, he couldn't pay for one what it cost, and he found a drawing, a schematic of a boat. And back in the 60s, early 60s, he built that boat in our carport. And he built it out of marine plywood, and it was one of the best boats. And we put it in the water, it didn't leak a drop. He had done all the right things and put some kind of copper treatment on it, and it's still in the barn down there. And I wouldn't be afraid to take it to the lake tomorrow. And that thing is 60 years old at least. And I'm thinking, he just done that because he wanted a boat, and and he could do it. It took him a little while, and he worked in his spare time on building that boat, and it was a nice boat.
And too, it's so important because you have those things you can talk about.
Yes.
And everybody, I mean, just search around. You can remember things your parents did. My dad, okay, should have been a film director, and that's actually what he wanted to be. And so he got a bunch of us kids together, and we did the Ten Commandments movie.
Oh yeah.
I was Miriam.
Oh yeah.
And I was like 6 years old. So he said, you can be Miriam. So, and
Moses'
I
sister.
was just, I had my grandmother's clothes basket. She was afraid I was going to tear it up. She was going, don't tear up my clothes basket. And so I had one of my dolls in it. And he said, you're going to be running to, it was a pond where we live now. With all
Yeah,
my grandparents.
yeah.
And so I'm taking baby Jesus or baby Moses in the basket to the water. And then I gently did it like this. My grandmother was in the background saying, don't let her lose my basket.
Well, I bet it was made out of wood, or thin.
No, it was made out of real thin wood. It was almost a
Yeah,
straw.
yeah.
And that basket lasted forever. It's just the way
Well,
things were made back in those days.
That's right. They used to make, and if you'll remember, they used to make bushel baskets for peaches and things like that. And it was out of that really, really thin wood, and they'd just last forever. And that was before we knew anything about plastic. And that's why I said I bet it was made out of wood.
It was some good stuff. And there was another thing he did, and it was about parting the Red Sea.
Yeah.
So he had it was an old Bell and Howell movie camera that he had back in the day, and so I grew up with a camera in my face.
Yeah.
So this is Bobby. You got to be on this one too. Okay. All right. And it's Bobby Ledbetter, Twin City Used Car Sales. We're here, and right here in Gadsden, we are live and in person. But this is what he did. And so I've always been intrigued by this as well. So he had me on one side of the kitchen sink. My brother was on the other side of the kitchen sink, and he had the camera right here. And he had some Reynolds wrap, right, how the middle of the divider of the sink is. So he had a bunch of that there. And he said, now when I count down 3, 2, 1, both of you get the bucket of water at the same time. Just let it go slowly. And it looked like a parting of the Red Sea.
Oh, really?
And what happened is it went up like this, and then it went down like this. So what he did is he got the film and he spliced it, and he turned it turned it backwards, and it looked like the Red Sea.
Oh my goodness.
Party. So some will think that your parents, I didn't have perfect parents at all, but there are things that you can learn that are a treasure.
Yeah, those common sense things that they had.
And at your church, where there are so many folks that, okay, everybody wants to know how to can preserve food and all this. You would have thought everybody on Sand Mountain would know how to do this, but I seem to be the only one in some cases. And it's just little things. And one time we were going to Lookout Mountain Church, and so we've been going there for about a month or so. And somebody said they're going to train the kids how to wring a chicken's neck.
Yeah.
And I looked over at Phil and I went, I'm in the right church.
Yeah, there's not many that can tell you, well, we're going.
We were planning, we wanted to go. Something came up, we couldn't go, something in the business or something.
That's the coolest thing. That is the coolest
thing. But
thing.
they're learning all these biblical principles and the core reasons of being a Christian and all those things. But they're also learning other things too that make life, that you can make a living.
I love it. That's why, I mean, it is so real and so practical, and in so many ways, it is like going back in time.
I love it. I mean, it's just like I hear my grandparents would talk about how church used to be.
Right.
Well, this is how church used to be.
You're right.
Back in the day. And I love it.
Yeah, it's a blessing to get that. I tell people all the time, it's such a blessing to get to do what I do because I could never see me doing this in a traditional church. I never felt like I needed to, never felt the calling to, never. I just kind of went and endured it. But boy, this has been my life, and I thank the Lord
Like a
regularly
calling.
for it. It is. It is such a blessing to get to do it.
Well, and we appreciate your friendship, Phil and I do.
Well, thank you.
I mean, we most certainly do because Phil has always went to church his entire life, but I've never seen him really feel like he fit in.
Yeah.
And he fits in there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It always is a testimony to me to see the difference in people. I mean, you got all these guys in our church that are engineers, and then you got these guys that are plumbers and electricians, and then you got some guy that may drive a truck, or he may drive a garbage truck for a living, and I just love that. I love the fact that there's no social barriers
Oh, I do too.
there.
I do too. Because a lot of times people will feel out of place. I have.
Oh yeah,
I felt very out of
yeah.
place.
Me too. Me too.
Because some of the churches, or and I'm not bashing churches, I'm just saying sometimes it feels more like a social club
Yeah,
than
yeah.
anything else.
You're right.
But
You're
where you
right.
can go and you can see kids.
Oh, yeah.
You and I keep going back to that.
Well,
It's when you can see the new life evolving.
yeah, and I to me that tells the future of your church when you take an inventory of the children and what you're doing with them. I had a guy tell me this, and his grandkids were at the Warhorse camp. He goes to a traditional church. He's a wonderful guy. I love him dearly. He is just a really good guy. But he told me, he said, man, he said, we had a vacation Bible school and said it was dead as a hammer. He said, I come over here and my grandkids are here. And he said, y'all have got it going on. And I said, well, I don't know. I said, I don't know this is just how we do church. And they were running in the mud and playing in the arena. And we had showers fixed for them to go down and shower off at the arena. And so we told them bring extra clothes, and we let them be kids. First off, we still let them be kids, but there's something about a kid getting to be on a horse that never got to ride a horse. There's something about you showing some kid love that he really didn't always get the best love. And I can tell you, they are the ones that are so responsive to it.
Oh, they are. Absolutely they are. 2 minutes left in this segment. What would you like to tell folks before we go?
I think the thing that's most important is find you a Bible believing church and go to it. Take your kids to it. It's the only thing that will affect them throughout eternity. Every parent should take it's the only thing I ever heard. My mother was a very quiet lady. I never heard her say anything out loud in church except this one thing. You need to get in church with your kids. And we're thankful for all the ones that drop them off. The only thing better than that is if you'd come with them. And that'd be my thing.
And eventually it happens.
Oh, it does.
They're going to see the excitement of the kids when they come home. And
We had a bunch of them yesterday there, and several told me, said, we made the decision, this is what we need to do. And they're not horse people, they're not cattle people, they're just people.
Well, I'm a beekeeper.
Yeah.
And I'm a beekeeper. Does that count?
Oh yeah, you're perfect for the role. You don't have to be anything to come to Cowboy Church except just be yourself. Yeah, be you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Not many people tell me to be me, so
That's
I
right.
definitely appreciate that. Appreciate you being with us
Oh,
again.
it's my pleasure.
Always. Phillip Gilliland with the American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches. There's a website.
Oh
Also.
yeah, it's AmericanFCC.org. You can find out all kinds of information on it about our events, our churches. You can even put your zip code in, and it will tell you where the closest Cowboy church is.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching. I know you could be doing anything else, but you're spending time with us, and Phillip and I definitely appreciate that.
We do.
Thank you. And thank you again for the emails. I definitely appreciate it. And any suggestions, ideas, anything you just want me to do some research, I'll be glad to do that for you. Send an email to Donna at donnasedge.com. And thank you. It really makes my day that you watch.